Brightline's push toward Tampa just picked up fresh momentum. While the focus has long been on funding, track plans, and travel times, attention is now shifting to something just as important: how Tampa itself is getting ready for what's coming. Behind the scenes, early groundwork is underway to make sure a future station in the heart of the city can move people smoothly, connect with surrounding neighborhoods, and handle the demand that Brightline is expected to bring. If you want to know how Brightline got to this point, what's driving the momentum, and what could come next for Tampa and the rest of Florida, stick with us. You're watching Great Trainspeed, and there's a lot more of this story still ahead. Before we go any further, take a moment to look closely at Brightline's latest results. The numbers tell an important story about where demand is coming from, how riders are actually using the service, and why these changes matter for what comes next. October 2025 marked a clear inflection point for Brightline following the launch of its redesigned network on October 6th. Ridership reached 260,370 passengers, up 20% year over year, driven by a 16% increase in long-distance trips and a sharp 26% rise in short-distance travel. Revenue climbed to $17.5 million, a 16% annual increase supported by strong long-distance ticket sales, steady short-distance performance, and a solid gain in ancillary services. Repeat riders continued to anchor demand, accounting for 61% of long-distance travel, while fleet upgrades moved forward with 5 additional premium cars entering service and 5 more scheduled for December. Operational reliability also hit a milestone, with on-time performance reaching a system record of 95%, reinforcing that the new network is not only bigger, but more efficient and dependable. October 2025 delivered the first full proof point of Brightline's new dual network strategy. Introduced on October 6th, the redesigned service reshaped capacity around real demand, particularly during peak travel periods. South Florida now operates up to 36 daily departures, with trains running roughly every 30 minutes at busy times. Within that structure, 16 trains are dedicated exclusively to short-distance travel between Miami and West Palm Beach, while 20 longer-distance services continue north to Orlando with longer train sets. Station coverage also improved, with Boca Raton now served by roughly 80% of South Florida trains and 90% of Orlando-bound departures. The results were immediate. Total October revenue rose 16% year over year, driven by a 19% increase in long-distance ticket revenue, a 4% gain in short-distance revenue, and a strong 16% rise in ancillary income. Now let's move on to the next part, but before we do that, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more rail updates across the U.S. In mid-July 2025, Brightline revealed plans to raise $400 million to push its rail service west from Orlando to Tampa, a journey that could be completed in roughly an hour once the line is fully operational. This extension would form the western end of a roughly 320-mile Florida corridor linking Miami and Tampa. The plan also includes new or upgraded stations across South and Central Florida, with Tampa envisioned as the final terminus. Looking ahead, Brightline projects monthly ridership across Florida could reach 650,000 passengers by 2026, with Tampa likely to add further demand once connected. The extension could make it far easier for both residents and visitors to reach theme parks, beaches, and major destinations without relying on long car trips. Tampa has also signaled its support. The city recently approved the next phase of Brightline's financing strategy, clearing the way for the company to continue working with the Florida Development Finance Corporation to pursue private activity bonds. Momentum continued on July 17th when the Florida Development Finance Corporation approved a loan that allows Brightline to advance the bond process. The funding is intended to support everything from early planning and design work to construction and station improvements, marking another step toward turning the long-discussed Tampa-Orlando rail connection into a near-term reality. Now for the latest development, a quieter but meaningful update is now taking shape in Tampa. Working alongside local and regional partners, the Hillsborough Transportation Planning Organization has begun a Brightline station area study that looks beyond the tracks and platforms to how a future station would function within the city. To get a clear understanding of who might use a future Tampa Brightline station and how they would get there, the study team carried out a detailed station access analysis. A context assessment was completed in April 2025, followed by a public station needs survey in May 2025 to gather community input. In June 2025, the team completed the station access and needs analysis using survey feedback and travel data. A draft station area connectivity plan was finalized in September 2025, with project completion scheduled for December 2025. The plan seeks to identify potential rider needs. Two scenarios were modeled. The first assumed a single station in Tampa, estimating more than 24 million annual trips across all travel modes between Tampa and 8 other Brightline station catchment areas within 45-minute drive sheds. The second scenario added a station in Lakeland, which dramatically increased total modeled trips to 142 million annually across 9 catchment areas. In that case, 83% of trips were concentrated between Tampa and Lakeland. Without Lakeland in the mix, roughly 75% of trips were between Tampa and Orlando, while travel to stations along Florida's east coast was more evenly distributed. Together, the findings highlight how station placement could significantly shape travel patterns and access needs across the corridor. As planning advances, the study also outlines the basic requirements for a future Tampa Brightline station. While final design decisions will be made by Brightline, early concepts point to platforms capable of serving multiple trains, supported by a clearly defined station plaza, with wayfinding, shade, and space for multimodal access. Even without a finalized location, the report stresses that success will depend on seamless connections beyond the station itself, extending into the surrounding neighborhoods and the wider city. Improving access across walking routes, transit links, and other modes could reduce local congestion and enhance overall mobility. To support this, planners have developed a conceptual connectivity framework to guide future design and coordination as the project moves forward. Beyond the station itself, a future Tampa Brightline stop will depend on strong connections to surrounding streets and the wider multimodal network. Improvements are needed both within the immediate station area, about a quarter mile from the site, and in the broader area beyond it. While several transit, roadway, and mobility projects are already planned or underway nearby, the study highlights additional gaps and proposes early concepts to further improve access, connectivity, and overall mobility for passengers traveling to and from a Tampa Brightline station. Which one would you prefer? Drop one if you go with the only Tampa stop and 0 if you're down with Lakeland and Tampa. As part of this early planning effort, a brief online survey was conducted. The survey focused on how people might use the station, what types of multimodal connections and amenities they would value most, and which planning considerations matter at the neighborhood level. In total, 11,834 people participated, with responses drawn from areas that already have, are planning for, or could eventually host a Brightline station. The survey results point to one clear takeaway. Connectivity will play a decisive role in the success of a future Tampa Brightline station. About 81% of participants said they would use the station to depart Tampa and travel elsewhere in Florida, with nearly half planning overnight trips and roughly 1/3 considering day trips. Only a small share remained unsure. The survey also offered a clearer picture of how travelers expect to move to and from a Tampa Brightline station. For those departing Tampa, driving remains the dominant option, with 74% saying they would arrive by personal vehicle and park. Ride-hailing followed closely at 55%, while 46% said they would be dropped off by someone they know. In practice, travel behavior is likely to be mixed. About 25% of respondents said they would only park and ride. 28% would rely solely on drop-off, and nearly half, 47%, expect to use more than one mode, combining driving with other options. Patterns shift once travelers arrive in Tampa. Ride-hailing becomes the primary choice, with 69% expecting to use it to reach their final destination. Walking was cited by 37%, while 31% said they would be picked up by someone. The whole project began in February 2025 with initial coordination and scope definition. A context assessment was completed in April 2025, followed by a public station needs survey in May 2025 to gather community input. In June 2025, the team completed the station access and needs analysis using survey feedback and travel data. A draft station area connectivity plan was finalized in September 2025, with project completion perhaps scheduled for December 2025. And that's all for today, everyone. See you next time.